Coming up on Tech News today, the Amazon tablet is real, but it's more Kindle than Android. We've got all the details. Netflix and Starz are breaking up. Samsung will never, ever, 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 ever buy WebOS. And Schmidt, my chairman, says all that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, September 2nd, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, your Mac, your iPad, your iPhone, or your TV instantly. All streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and a lot of hassle. For a free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
This is the show where we kick around the Tech News Today. It's
Kicking
like,
it.
It's like Kick the Can.
Oh, yeah?
The game for kids.
It's a big can, though, because a lot of news in that
technology blogs.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're harder to kick, but we do our best. Joining us today is none other than Simon Dingle. Hello, Simon.
Hey, guys.
I believe the
How you
last time
doing?
you joined us was back in February. That's at least what we could figure out from our calendar. So thanks again for being here.
Wow. Yeah, time flies, huh? September.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
in
September, February, Steve Jobs, right? A lot changes.
Yeah, exactly. A lot.
Tends to do that.
News happens. Well, there's quite a bit of news for Friday.
Friday,
in fact, and a Friday in August. Well, it's not August anymore. It's
Well,
beginning of
it's a little
September,
bit
so maybe the tide is turning.
post-August.
Yeah, we're back into the news on the upswing again. Looks like the Amazon's Kindle tablet is the real deal. MG Siegler over at TechCrunch says that he has not only seen it, he has touched it, he has played with it, and he has a lot of specs about the Kindle. It's called. It's the tablet that, of course, the fabled Amazon tablet that everyone knew was coming, although Amazon was not recognizing it. But apparently, according to him, it's going to be called the Amazon Kindle, but it will not have e-ink. This is going to be a fully capacitive touchscreen, 7-inch, full color, running Android, but with no links to Android Marketplace, nothing that looks like Android, fully skinned to be an Amazon/Kindle experience. In fact, he says, as far as the hardware form factor goes, it looks more similar to the BlackBerry Playbook than any other Android tablet on the market so far. The idea is 7-inch. There were rumors that Amazon was working on a 7 plus a 10-inch, possibly to launch as early as October. According to his source, it'll only be a 7-inch. That's what they're banking on. It's going to be available late November. And here's the key, price, $250.
250 bucks for
Yeah.
an Amazon Kindle that would possibly have an Android forking, effectively. This is a
Exactly.
completely different Android, a different skin.
That's
Although
right.
I'm curious if people are going to try to go under there and try to do some serious Android things later.
They
But I
always
mean,
will.
at 250 bucks for a 7-inch tablet, I mean, that sounds pretty killer. They're supposed to be using 2-finger multi-touch, so you're not going to have the crazy, you're not going to be able to play piano or anything, but why
Right.
would you care? It's probably just a reader with a media player, effectively, and that's all Amazon really needs. So it's supposed to come out in November.
Yeah, well, this is, again, according to the source, yeah, $250, okay, it's like, all right, so that's half of the price of the iPad. We've talked a lot about how low Amazon needed to go in order to be a real player in the tabloid market. But keep in mind, that's about the same price as a Nook Color. So in reality, it's more that it's two Android devices competing with each other, but with very different interfaces. Simon, what do you think about this? Do you think Amazon has got the edge?
I think this is a big deal. I'm trying to picture this thing being awesome, which would be nice, right? 7-inch tablets are a great idea. I just haven't seen one that rocks yet. But it is a big deal. Amazon's just opened a new facility up in Cape Town in South Africa. I was with the guys earlier this week, and I asked them about the Kindle tablet, and they were like, "Nope, not happening. We can't say anything," and it's no. So yeah. I think this is a really big deal. I mean, from an ecosystem perspective, Amazon's got a lot of good stuff to offer. And I think if anybody's going to take this fight to Apple proper, like in the next year, it's going to be Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. The web browser has some bells and whistles, things like tabs. Device doesn't have a camera, no camera, and at least at launch, They haven't figured out their carrier deals yet, so apparently only going to be Wi-Fi only. And again, that 7-inch form factor appeals to some people, but definitely not to all. So it's interesting that between the two choices that they had, let's figure out what works. Yeah, because the idea is that if the 7-inch is a hit, then they'll go into production with a 10-inch early next year.
Is the thought here that, okay, so they're calling it the Amazon Kindle. Is
That's
that
right.
to be assumed that this is then replacing the e-ink models? How do they differentiate them?
No,
between
I
the
don't
two?
think there's
It might
any
be-
way that they would do
it
away
might
with
have-
something that's so successful.
It might have like just another 2-letter designation. I mean, there's the Kindle DX that's still out there.
Or the Kindle Classic.
Or they could call it the Kindle Color. Yeah, they could rename the old Kindle, Kindle E-Ink or
the
black and
Kindle
white.
Sun.
Yeah.
If you got to go outside, take that e-ink version of you.
Right.
So,
Do we know anything about what could be happening with WhisperSync? You said they didn't have any carrier deals finalized yet, but they've got this international roaming agreement with AT&T. If they came to market with a WhisperSync kind of setup, permanently connected, and maybe not costing too much, if anything, maybe it's part of the deal like WhisperSync is with the current Kindle, that could be pretty awesome, right?
absolutely. There are also rumors, anyway, and this is, again, just from one article, that it might be bundled when you buy a new Amazon Kindle tablet with free Amazon Prime.
That's crazy. That's an $80 thing normally.
Right.
And Amazon Prime now is tied to Amazon's Instant Video. So now you have a device
Bingo.
that immediately has content. Although the library is not exactly, fantastic, but it's still really, really, it's available.
Super smart.
The second you get this tablet, you have content to watch, and you're like, hey, I have free Prime. I'm going to buy something else.
Well, and
Well,
that's,
you're going to buy, you're going to buy a lot
anybody-
else.
I'm going to buy a
you don't
case
have
for
to
this
pay
thing from Amazon.
Exactly. Anybody who has Amazon Prime loves it because they save so much on shipping, but they also buy a lot more
You end
stuff
up
from
buying-
Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I
mean,
end up
it's
buying so much
genius. It's like, no wonder they don't want to have anything to do with anything that looks Android. I mean, they want people to think about Amazon as the marketplace for all of the stuff. Place to watch media, place to buy your books and music and cat food and anything else you can buy at Amazon.
I'm just
There are a
thinking
lot of things.
nowadays.
At 7 inches, you could theoretically have a case that has the e-ink Kindle on one side and this Kindle on the other. You just open it like a book.
Ooh.
And you're like, hey, I want to read on this side. I want to look at media on this side.
I like that.
Although
Very good.
if it had a 3G connection that was always on, maybe WhisperSync, I could see that being there. But there's no way they're going to have a deal where they can have media streaming over 3G unless you
No.
have some kind of contract or a $30 a month plan. Because in the U.S., we're used to that. iPad costing an extra fee on top of that. But man, this thing could be really cool.
It could be really cool. So we don't have any pictures to show because the one source that we have was the reason that we have the information is because the source didn't want any pictures taken. But you have to assume if this is coming out at the end of November and all of this is accurate, that there's going to have to be some leaks pretty soon, especially if the Nook color is going to get updated, which I know it is as well. So we'll be watching the story. It's all very exciting. That $250 price point, man. I think we all kind of said if it's under $300, this is going to be a big deal.
And that's a start. I mean, when the Kindle came out, it was $359, the original Kindle. So like, in the next generation will probably be closer to $200, then to $150.
Right.
I mean, Amazon is pretty aggressive. And this, again, if they do an advertisement scheme like they did with the current Kindle, this price could be even lower than that.
Yeah. They'll hit Cyber Monday, end of November. It's going to be like the biggest day.
That's good for the
There's
holiday
a lot
rush,
of-
too.
Exactly.
November's-
Amazon Kindles. All right, moving on to Netflix, losing Starz. We touched on this a little bit in our news views yesterday, but some more information has come out on what may have happened. Why did Starz pull out? Why couldn't they renegotiate? And it's funny. Everybody's talking about this story. In 2008 was when Netflix and Starz teamed up. Netflix got a deal originally to play Starz content. And it's funny, I actually went back to an old Wired article that was written in 2009 about how Netflix pulled one over on the Hollywood studios and got Starz to pay, to ask so much less from Netflix to get the same amount of content that somebody like Comcast as a cable provider was paying. But things have hit a snag, haven't they?
Yeah, their contract is pretty much up. There's nothing renegotiated. Starz content won't be available on Netflix after February 28th, 2012. And the thing is about Starz, they have some exclusive deals with certain studios, and that's why you saw some of the newer content on there, like Toy Story 3 and Iron Man 2. All that stuff was via the Starz deal. And so once Starz has expired, you're not going to get the newest movies unless Netflix negotiates for that. But Netflix is obviously trying to spin this. They still have Paramount, they have MGM, Lionsgate, and a partnership with Epix. And apparently, what Starz did, they wanted they wanted a different kind of deal. Netflix offered them $300 million for their content.
Per year.
I don't know if it's per year, but I guess for this whole deal,
yeah.
whatever the deal term was. But the idea was that Starz turned it down because they wanted, is per year? Thanks. They wanted Netflix to offer a premium watch instantly service with Starz, so making it more like cable, I guess. So you pay like $7.99 for regular Netflix and $9.99 or whatever it would be for Starz, which is really a different way, and Netflix didn't want any of that.
Simon, what do you think about the tiered options for Netflix and why they might not have been interested in playing ball with Starz?
Gee, it's difficult to comment on. I mean, we don't have Netflix officially in South Africa, so it's hard to actually care about it in the first place. I just find it amazing that content is still licensed the way that it is in 2011. It blows the mind that they still think territorially. They still think in rollout windows where it's like, well, you guys in this part of the world get it first, and then your friends over there will get it like a couple of weeks later. Never mind that you've already heard about it on Facebook and Twitter. And I don't get how license is still or how content is still licensed this way in this day and age. It makes no sense to me.
They're obviously just actually shipping hard drives with the content over. And that's how it's all sneakernet, effectively. That must be the issue. Yeah, because there's no global way to connect these things.
Yeah.
And how would we do it? Imagine if we could get computers to speak to each other across the globe and we could transfer information that way. That would be amazing.
Some sort of peer-to-peer service should be
perhaps something that could withstand other networks being down, or it could be a
maybe
network.
A weekend project for us. Maybe.
Interconnected.
For, to speak to how Netflix feels about this, Reed Hastings told Business Insider, hey, we license great content with a lot of people. They've got Lionsgate, they've got MGM, they've got Paramount. Starz content is down to about 8% of domestic Netflix subscribers viewing. As we add more content, and they plan to in Q4, we think the content will naturally get down to about 5 to 6% of domestic viewing. So in their opinion, and of course they would spin it to look like they don't need Starz in either way, but I mean, if these numbers are even close to accurate, Starz isn't really that important to Netflix. I mean, less than 10% at a peak. It's interesting too. I mean, I've been reading all of these articles, and you look in the comments, and people are on both sides of the spectrum. People say Netflix is dead. Starz was the best they had. That was the only way that they could even play ball with anything that's current. And other people saying Starz wasn't that great. There's just a bunch of stuff, and I won't even miss it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see both sides of the argument. Some of the Starz content was like stuck in 4.3, so you might have a 4.3 and a pillar box and letterboxed, which is a great viewing experience. And the quality wasn't as high as when it came to bit rate. But then, I mean, Netflix, Reed Hastings continued to say, we're confident we can take the money we had earmarked for the Starz deal and spend it on other providers. I mean, if they were going to throw $300 million at these guys every year, they could buy some serious, like some other content like crazy. Or they could create content at $300 million a year.
There's also speculation that because Netflix and Starz teamed up in the first place, some people, in the traditional film studio space were ticked off about it because they weren't getting any, cut out of it, that it's actually lowered Starz negotiating power because people already know that they will give away, well, not give away, but license their content for a lot less.
You're saying Starz is easy?
Well,
it's got a reputation.
I'm saying that people might be looking at Starz like they don't try that hard.
I see. So it's got a bad reputation. It's trying to...
No fancy steak dinner for Starz.
Just a burger and a pickup truck.
Moving on to Samsung Electronics, who apparently never,
guys.
ever in 5 million years would buy WebOS. They can't get away. But why do they keep telling us this? And why won't we listen?
Okay, so there was a rumor that Samsung was going to buy HP's PC business, and the CEO said, actually, first there was a blog post on Samsung's site saying we're not doing it. Then the CEO made some really definitive statements saying we are definitely not doing that. Then there were rumors that WebOS was going to get purchased, and that seemed not so crazy. And Samsung CEO Choi Gi-sung was at IFA, and he said, quote, one thing is clear is that Samsung will never buy HP's WebOS patent portfolios, and I think that's not important. So he continued, and it was just effectively saying, again, stop associating us with HP.
So apparently they actually are going to, right?
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
Is that what we can assume from this?
What could he mean?
I think enough people are thinking if they say never, they must mean next month. So to the point where he's like, okay, when I say never, I really, really mean never. He also went on to say, I don't even think it's right that companies are acquiring operating systems this way. He's got a problem, like a personal issue with it.
Well, Samsung uses Android. They have Bada. And they run Windows Phone 7 as well.
They're busy.
Simon, what do you think? Do you believe the CEO? Do you take him at his word, or do you think these two are just destined for each other?
People don't want to watch video on small devices. There'll never be a video iPod. Who wants that? I mean, we hear this kind of stuff, right?
Exactly.
I don't see why Samsung will want WebOS. I don't see why they'd want to license it. I don't see why they'd want to buy it. They don't need it for anything. If they wanted to own their own operating system, they've already got Bada that they're doing nothing with. So, why have two deserted children? It makes sense to me that he really doesn't want WebOS and doesn't need it. I don't know why he felt he had to say it though.
The other thing is we're not seeing like the PR teams go, oh, the CEO was angry that day, or like, oh, he doesn't speak for us, and that Ballmer kind of fixing up thing. Samsung's completely behind this. Like, yeah, okay, well, the CEO said it. We're not doing it. I mean, it should be pretty clear, and I'm sure HP will take out a lot more ads to say we are pursuing our strategic alternative, or whatever they're saying now, whatever their spin is. But wow.
Well, if anyone knows if Samsung CEO Choi Gi-sung has ever gone back on his word about anything, maybe not paid that debt that he owed you, let us know, and then we'll know if never really means never.
Maybe he speaks in hyperbole, and we just didn't know it until now. He was just like, I will never order a steak again. And then he had steak the next day.
Well, one thing for sure, he really, really does not want anyone to think that they're interested in purchasing WebOS.
It probably hurts their stock price every time they say HP.
Okie dokie, Samsung. We're listening. And now we want to take a moment to thank Netflix. Before we get on to some of our discussion stories on the show today, I want to talk about why Netflix is so great. If you're already a subscriber, you already know why Netflix is so great. In fact, we've been talking about them on this very show. Netflix.com/twit is the URL to go to if you just want to check out Netflix. If you're like, what's, this whole Starz deal? What's really going on with Netflix? I've never really had a chance to sit down and absorb as much content as they offer and see if it's the right thing for me. We're giving you a free 30-day trial. So there you go. You can watch instant streaming, which is, that's really what you do. It's like when I just want to watch The Exorcist, and I'm like, I'm just in the mood to watch The Exorcist, and I want it to start streaming before I change my mind. I go straight to Netflix streaming, and then I can start watching through my Apple TV or my Xbox 360 or my PS3 or right straight through my TV because I have a Netflix widget on my TV at home. And let's say halfway through the movie, I'm freaked out, and I have to go watch the rest of the movie in the bright sunshine at the park, or else I won't sleep at night. I can take my iPad or another device, my laptop, whatever, out with me. Iyaz is laughing. This happens. I sometimes have to watch horror movies in the sun
not to laugh in the microphone
with children playing around me.
Right. So The Exorcist can be watched on your portable device because it'll resume.
That's right.
From that very spot.
Yeah, I go out to the nice place in the park near the ponies, and I finish watching The Exorcist with the head spinning, and I don't cry as much.
And the deleted scenes.
Of course, there's always the DVD tiered pricing option as well. They're both $7.99. If you like the DVD model and you want Netflix movies to come straight to your mailbox and shuffle your queue online and figure out what you want to come next when you're finished watching a movie or a TV series, TV shows, you can do that as well. Again, Netflix.com/twit, free for 30 days. Tell a friend. If you're already using Netflix and you love it, give your friend the gift of content, and then you don't have to pay anything.
30 days is a long time.
It is, yeah. You can get through a lot of stuff in 30 days. So thanks to Netflix for sponsoring this episode of Tech News Today. And now, on to Eric Schmidt.
Eric Schmidt.
We want to thank, who is it, Joshua Dill and Rafi Carmen for creating that graphic. It's awesome.
It's a fantastic graphic.
It's exactly what we had always envisioned.
It's quick, it's simple, and it's Eric Schmidt who basically was talking at a Dreamforce conference. And
so that's a Salesforce conference that's going on in the Bay Area this week.
And like he does all the time, he manages to do some notable remarks. It's what he does.
It's his shtick.
The
Schmidt's shtick.
The Schmidt stick.
Yeah,
the Schmidt stick.
That's I know. It's just that happened organically. So what did he say? Because so he started to say Google bought Motorola not just for patents. I mean, a lot of people have have convinced themselves that that's the only reason that Google got Motorola, because they wanted to have ammunition, really, to be, you know, on that patent playing field with everybody else that's gobbling up patents. And he says, listen, it's not just because of that. We want to use the Motorola brand to create integrated hardware and software. We want to build on this platform.
Larry Page's blog post, or the blog post that was running on Google, was focused on the patents. But then again, people really discounted what Google would do with Motorola as a hardware company. Simon, do you think that Motorola is going to be this special branded piece of Google, or do you think they're just talking hot air?
I think they'd be crazy not to do something with the hardware that Motorola's putting out at the moment. I've been playing with the Zoom and the Atrix, which I actually have over here. I'm pretty impressed with what Motorola's doing and the direction it's heading in, and I think there's amazing opportunity for Google. Sorry, I'm trying to say this without fidgeting. The chat room says I'm fidgeting too much.
No, don't worry about that. I fidget too.
It's 12 a.m. and I'm on caffeine. Okay. But so they were really building out an amazingly compelling ecosystem. When I first saw the Atrix, I was at a CES in Las Vegas this year, and I thought, yeah, nice idea, you know, kind of 5 years out from us seeing anything meaningful, you know, a laptop dock for a phone, whatever. But having played with it now and actually seeing it in action, it's pretty compelling. This is cool stuff. Nobody else is doing this kind of thing, and I think there are a lot of opportunities for Google. There's also, of course, the set-top box space where Motorola is a big player in the States, Google TV, and the obvious play that could exist there. So yeah, I think Google's gonna go for it on the hardware front. They'd be dumb not to.
Going back to the Atrix, I mean, the web-top interface would be a great opportunity to finally use Chrome OS for something. So if you're running Android on your Motorola phone, you dock it in your laptop, and then it's full-on Chrome OS. Could be a really fun option for people. I mean, because there's always been the two parallel tracks. Chrome OS exists and Android. If you had a device that could do both, it could be the Atrix or any of these Motorola devices that have the docking stations. I would love to see that. That's what I thought when I first saw the news. I'm like, oh, cool, we're finally going to get some really neat hardware. But everyone's like, no, it's just patents.
Well, I mean, that was the whole idea behind Google TV. They just need to work on it a little bit more. So hopefully they're taking all this stuff seriously, and Motorola can help them on that front. Schmidt also, noting his time as a board member at Apple, said his quote was, "I was on the board until I couldn't stay on the board anymore." Now, if you take that at face value, you say, all right, well, so there was a reason that he couldn't stay on the board anymore. It has been misconstrued by some to mean I was on the board until I couldn't stand to be on the board anymore. And that's not what he said.
They misheard it. I mean, it does sound similar. And he was talking about how, Schmidt was talking about how he was in less and less meetings because Google came out with competitive devices to the iPhone. So it made more sense for him to leave. But he did not say he couldn't stand it. He said he couldn't stay on the board.
I think he was probably asked not to come to the next meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Is more realistic. The Apple saying,
Steve said, please don't come back.
Exactly.
You can recuse yourself forever.
He also noted that Steve Jobs was the best performance of a CEO in 50 years, and that we've all benefited a tremendous amount. So obviously paying some homage to Jobs as a good guy running the show at Apple. I mean, you figure that the two of them, for whatever differences that they may have ended up having, obviously worked together closely over a period of time. And so he knows a lot. He probably knows a lot more about what was going on in the mind of Steve Jobs than a lot of other people.
Yeah, they're
different philosophies, but still sharing information.
There's likely a great respect between the two, especially since I think Google was very prominent on the first iPhone. There was Google Maps and Google search integration everywhere.
All right, moving on to AT&T and the T-Mobile merger. Will it or won't it? A reminder that the Department of Justice is filing suit to stop the merger. They don't think that AT&T needs to buy T-Mobile in order to get more people better service. They say you can do that more cheaply just by investing in your own infrastructure than buying T-Mobile and eliminating a competitor. A source is saying AT&T is
they're not ready to give it up yet. They're saying,
well, and we know that they aren't just going to say, oh, okay, never mind, we'll pay T-Mobile $6 billion for a little breakup fee and go about our way. But apparently they're willing to make some concessions. We just don't know what those concessions would be yet.
Yeah, back when Comcast bought NBC in the United States, Comcast made a whole bunch of concessions to make this deal work because it was consolidating major players. And AT&T, I don't know what exactly they would do to make sure that this deal goes through. And they want to make sure this settles out of court. They don't want to be involved with the DOJ and actually litigate, because then they would have to say things on public record, which they probably never want to. So there's Reuters is reporting there's a 2-track plan. What the 2 tracks are, we don't know, because there's no details on this just yet. And an anonymous source is saying AT&T is pretty confident the company can find a solution. How is the mobile carrier situation where you are, Simon? Do you think that, I don't know, 4 carriers is better than 3 for competition?
Definitely.
Yeah, what's the situation in South Africa? I mean, is it anything that's similar to the mess we've got going on in the States?
Kind of. I mean, we had one major carrier at the outset of cellular in South Africa in the 90s, and then we had 2. And for a long time, it was just the 2 of them, and there wasn't enough competition between them. It was a duopoly. There were rumors and, speculation about collusion between the 2 of them and price fixing and that kind of nasty stuff. Then we had a 3rd operator come in, but it wasn't until we had 4 or 5 that we really started to see competition take off and prices come down. I think you want more of these guys. I don't think you want less of them. And even with my limited knowledge of your market in the States, I mean, I'm in the US 4 or 5 times a year, and even me with like a prepaid T-Mobile SIM does not want AT&T to take that away. I do not want them to own T-Mobile. The limited experience I've had of AT&T has been terrible.
No, but
I don't think that
AT&T is saying that if they buy T-Mobile, you'll have a better experience when you come over here.
Right.
Because there's only 3 of them. And
whatever.
Why would that happen, right? I mean, you won't have a bad experience if there's only 3 carriers and they can't jack up prices at all, right?
Well, the former FCC chairman begs to differ. Reed Hunt spoke to SNL Kagan on the DOJ's decision to sue AT&T and says AT&T is certain to lose. Yikes. I mean, this is, we went from saying, yeah, a lot of people are going to complain about this merger, but it's going to go through because this is the way that things always go. And it's starting to seem like, wow, I don't know if this is going to go through.
Oh, I
couldn't have predicted that.
You guys are so negative. Everyone thinks the government won't do anything and intervene. You just...
Finally.
I can't even say that with a straight
Government's
face.
Intervening. Well, then you got there's a whole other group of people who are like, government's intervening.
They're in the way.
Do that.
Free market.
So it's hard to keep everybody
competition.
happy. Finally, we actually didn't really talk about this whole iPhone 5
and there was a reason
apparently found at a bar in San Francisco. Just to remind you of anything, it's a lot like the iPhone 4 story that was found at a bar down in, I think it was Woodside, which is just south of San Francisco. However long ago, and finally bought by Gizmodo and talked about. So the deal is that there was a story floating around that there was an iPhone 5. It was lost by an employee. It was picked up by somebody, and then there was an investigation within the San Francisco Police Department, presumably started by Apple, to recover this iPhone. It doesn't sound like that's necessarily what happened at all.
No, apparently the San Francisco Police Department was contacted by Gizmodo, and the SFPD has no idea what they're talking about.
They said
they're not doing
this
an
is not our investigation,
which made the story sound even more false. And then the person who's claimed that he was investigated, he claims that somebody left him a card when they checked his house, his car, and everything. And a fellow's name was, I think, it was Alex Cologne. And it turns out that guy apparently works for Apple. So the question is, were they impersonating police officers, or maybe he said it very fast, we work with Apple or not, but impersonating a police officer is a crime. So you can't just go do that. The question is, it's not beyond Apple. Sorry, the name was Anthony Cologne. It's not beyond Apple to send private investigators over to somebody's house, especially if they thought they lost an iPhone. But do you think Apple sent out their own private goon, Simon? Or is it just,
it's just so weird. And at first when I read this story, I'm like, wait, so it was like a tequila bar, it was like, it's this tequila bar, I thought, did the tequila bar just pull off a great marketing effort to now everyone knows about Cava 22 and they all want to go, but it's Apple itself acting as the police department, presumably. I mean, if we're to believe this next phase in the story, it's so weird.
Apple's been seeding bars in the Bay Area with iPhone 5s for weeks, and finally somebody noticed. And then they sent the police in
exactly.
to seal the deal.
So do you think Apple sent out their own guys, Simon, or do you think this is like, the thing is, this could easily be hoaxed, the entire thing? I mean, it's just one guy telling a newspaper, hey, this happened, and I was investigated, and there was a lost phone, and there's been no shots of this phone, no pictures of this phone.
Exactly.
He says he doesn't have the device either, so like...
Yeah, that's the feeling I get. It didn't happen.
It didn't happen, and it's like, what's anyone's incentive, really, to start the story up? Because there's nothing to show.
The worst thing is...
I mean, the only reason we're talking about it now is that it's just gotten weird.
Well, yeah, the reason why we didn't cover it last time was because the details weren't there. There was no information about the phone being recovered or not, or even if there was one. So at this point, like, this is just getting stranger and stranger, and that's why we were compelled to cover it at this point, because now the police department is looking into it. They want to know if was somebody impersonating them or not, because that's a serious offense.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. It's like, whoever that turns out to be. Apple, if it was you, the police are not amused. On to the news fuse. Bloomberg is reporting that Dish will introduce a streaming video service under the Blockbuster name next month. Dish bought Blockbuster back in April for about $300 million, a little over that. Right now, Blockbuster offers rentals of individual movies, but the new service is aimed at being a subscription-based Netflix competitor. I have to say, I would have marketed it under Dish rather than Blockbuster, but that's just me.
Yeah, Blockbuster's got some negative connotation. Apple has quietly begun offering the old Final Cut Studio again, but you'll have to call a phone number, very odd, 1-800-MY-APPLE to order it. It costs $1 under $1,000, but you have to act now because an Apple spokesperson says that this is a limited quantity of Final Cut Studio. So don't expect Apple, by the way, to offer you options in the future. Once these are gone, these are gone.
Congratulations to Cloudflare, because you have just been named as a tech pioneer by the World Economic Forum. Congratulations. Cloudflare is a network operator that unwittingly became Lulzsek's best friend because Cloudflare's security allowed the Lulzsek site to handle lots of attacks. Good on ya.
Now, remember the Samsung Note we were talking about yesterday, the 5.3-inch phone?
Darren loved it because he wears big pants.
Right, and the Tab, Galaxy Tab 7.7, the AMOLED, super thin, really pretty. These are awesome devices. Yeah, bad news. We're not getting them in the United States, and Samsung has no plans to launch either one in the United States. The news was reported by a fellow named Xavier Lanier, who apparently was also heartbroken that neither are coming to America. You should read his blog post. He's very depressed.
Xavier and Darren should get together and go bowling.
They have no plans to introduce something that could be a killer. 7.7 looked really good.
Yeah, it did.
It's too awesome. You can't have it. I've actually seen a prototype of that device. A friend of mine who works at Samsung was playing with one a couple of weeks ago. It's awesome. Why wouldn't they release it in the US? I don't get it.
Oh, it's to build demand.
Which one, the tablet or the...
Both. Neither one are being...
No, which one did you play around with?
The tablet, the 7-inch tablet.
Okay.
The next generation Tab 7-inch. It's a really awesome device. A lot thinner than the original one. Running Honeycomb, which is cool. The previous one was 2.2, if I remember correctly, or 2.1. It's a really cool device. I have no idea why they wouldn't do this in the US. It just makes perfect sense to.
We know that Amazon tablet apparently is just running 2.2, although you're not really supposed to think about that because, of course, it's so Amazon branded. But anybody who is more interested in Honeycomb might be more interested in the Tab 7.7. So, sorry, US people. Hey, California, speaking of the U.S., if you change your laws, Amazon is promising it's going to create 7,000 jobs. What? You might recall Amazon killed its affiliate program in California after California passed a law that would require Amazon to collect sales tax. Amazon would bring the jobs to California if the sales tax law does not go into effect until 2014. And California has the second highest unemployment rate in the U.S., so you can see who they're kind of pandering to here.
That's interesting.
Do you want 7K jobs?
7,000 jobs?
Take
or a
away
tablet,
that
shiny
sales
tablet.
tax.
Confuse everybody at the same time. Google properties are dropping like flies. Google Fast Flip, a quick way to scan news, will be removed in the next couple of days. Aardvark, a social search service that Google bought for $50 million last year, shutting down end of the month. And for the the 5 people left who are using Google Notebook, that's going to be killed in the next coming months.
Simon, have you been using Fast Flip, Aardvark, or Notebook, or any of the 3?
No, not really.
Me either.
It's quite when they killed him off, I was like, okay.
I use Fast Flip all the time.
You know, Aardvark is the only one that its name is even recognizable to me. What's Google Notebook?
I asked Jason, like, hey, are you going to miss Aardvark? And he's like, what?
I was like, let me open up the doc and take a look at that, and I'll get back to you.
What was that?
No.
What was that, Simon?
Well, I miss Aardvarks. Yes, where they're going.
What's happening to the Aardvarks? I love them. They're my favorite.
Roadkill.
A new Barnes & Noble Nook is expected this month, according to Digitimes. This will be a revised Nook color that should feature a 7-inch touchscreen and handle apps. Boy, the 7-inch is just like, it's the new 10-inch, isn't it? So if you were in the market for an e-reader or a tablet, you might want to wait till some of those Amazon tablet pics leak out and then make an informed decision if you want to go Nook or you want to go Kindle.
So we're basically saying don't buy a touchpad or a playbook, which will be on sale this week. Migo is in trouble. I know. Hang on here.
I'm going to cry.
Intel will temporarily discontinue development of the Linux-based mobile operating system. Migo is a successor to Nokia's Maemo and Intel's Moblin, which always sounds like I have a stroke when I say it. Once Nokia jumped to Windows Phone, Intel claimed it would keep Migo going. Guess not.
Migo, Maemo, and Moblin.
All gone.
No-go.
It's like some sort of a Lord of the Rings spin-off. Scotland Yard arrested 2 more people thought to be associated with Lulzsec. One of those 2 is thought to be Kayla, one of the ringleaders. The arrest was made possible by a concerted effort by the FBI and local police. In anonymous news, 14 individuals facing who are charged with attempting to DDoS PayPal all pleaded not guilty, which is thought to mean kind of a long courtroom drama appears to be unfolding. Their next court date is November 1st. Now under the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Who here likes Monopoly? The game, the board game, Monopoly.
Not the whole thing.
Monopoly.
It's okay.
Not, AT&T Monopoly.
What if you could play it in real life? I don't mean by a board game, Simon. Does this intrigue you?
Sign me up right away. I'm one of those people who checks into Foursquare. I still haven't figured out why, but I do it.
Well,
it makes me happy.
This is going to tickle your fancy, so to
Yeah,
speak.
so the combination, it's perfect for you, Simon. You love Monopoly, you use Foursquare, and now you can play Foursquareopoly, which is not actually a game.
Too many, it'll never catch on.
It's something that's third party. It's not a Foursquare creation, but the idea is, and this is virtual. It's not as if they're trying to get all your money. You let's say you become a mayor of Starbucks, for example. Is the example that they've got in their little instructional video that we found on Laughing Squid. You're the mayor, and now that has a monetary value.
Actually, they start you off with a certain amount of money, and you can buy a location if it's not purchased already.
Exactly.
And anytime somebody checks in at that location, they have to pay you rent. So, yeah, exactly. Just like Monopoly. The question is...
I guess it's less mayor, more slumlord.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now.
Would you go around would you check into more places, or you just want to not pay rent?
Well, see, I'm a bad example because I check in everywhere I go. Like, I check into drugstores when I'm going to buy toothpaste. I mean, I'm really committed to Foursquare. And Simon, I'm like you. I don't know why, but it's just something that I'm doing regularly. So it's like, sure, I'll add a game on top of it, but I don't think I have to be enticed to use it more often. What about you?
I use Foursquare just to be mayor of the set. I don't really care.
We do. We have a TNT set mayorship that Iyaz and Tom. It's part of the reason
no
they fight so
idea
much.
about this.
Yes.
I never
No.
use Foursquare. I just can't get into the habit. I have no reason to. I guess this maybe brings a little bit more extra value to someone who just can't find value in checking into places for no reason whatsoever.
It gives you a reason to go
I don't know
to
if it's going to
places.
move me to use it, though.
But what if you wanted a reason to explore a city? Like, hey, did anybody buy that building yet? I'm going to go over there and try it out. And then you find you got to pay rent.
So the cool thing with Foursquare is that you can cheat on Foursquare. You can check into places that are, hundreds of kilometers or miles away.
Simon.
And so there are people who take Foursquare seriously, and they get very upset when they lose their mayorship to somebody who cheats. That's why I use Foursquare. It's fun.
Well, no, Foursquare did change. So they were figuring out that so many people were becoming mayors of places that were so far away from them that they were never going to. They've actually changed their service a bit so that you can't, if you're a certain, more than a certain amount of feet away from a venue, it'll say, okay, you're checked in there, but you don't get any points. Or if you check into, if I check into the same bar 5 times in a day, it's only going to recognize the one time a day in order for me to get that much closer to mayorship. But Simon's kind of a rebel.
It's no fair. I'm down to my sofa now. That's the one mayorship I have left.
Your sofa?
And I'll keep it.
What happens when somebody reclaims your sofa? Where you check in, you realize you're no longer mayor of your sofa.
Well, Jason, that's
Who
when
is
I
that?
get very
You
scared.
change your locks.
Who is this person? And why are they near the sofa?
All right, let's move on to the calendar. Dragon Con Atlanta, officially starts today. We've been talking about it all week. September 2nd through Monday, September 5th. If you're already there, you're having a great time. We're starting to get all the tweets and the pictures in from Veronica and Tom and Brian Brushwood and Justin Robert Young and John Strickland is there as well.
Those jerks.
I know.
Yeah, they didn't take us-
They're having so much fun chasing dragons and being all fantasy.
And the cons, too.
I'm actually kind of jealous. It sounds like it's a lot of fun. So if you're in the area, stop by. There's going to be a lot of events. IFA Berlin also started today and goes through Wednesday, September 7th, 2011.
So we'll be talking about consumer electronics all through the week.
Lot of products. Well,
Yep.
that's fun. I mean, you say that like it's a bad thing.
Well, it's not patents, so I'm happy.
Yes, right. Anything but patents. Happy third birthday to Chrome. You were released way back in August 2008. Now you're 3. I love you. I use you every day. You're my favorite browser. Anyone else?
Yeah.
I enjoy Chrome. I don't know if I love it. I'm not ready to profess love for a
Simon,
browser.
what's your browser of choice?
I don't have a browser of choice. They all suck in their own unique way.
That's true.
I think I use Safari most of the time, just because it's simple and it gets most of the gunk out of the way and it lets me surf the web, which is the last time I checked what browsers are for. Chrome is cool, and because I use Google Apps for everything and my mail, it tends to work best with Chrome. Funny that. But yeah, I guess if I had to go with one, it would be Safari at the moment. It's just the simplest.
All right. Finally, the Droid Bionic new teaser has confirmed its release at September 8th. Not long now.
Is that a confirmation, or is that a confirmation of an announcement on the 8th? Or
Well,
some
yeah.
other time?
You never really...
At this point, I think you believe it when you actually see the
That
device
thing
in
has
the
been
store.
teased. Oh, yeah, it's coming out. Sure it is. No, it's not. That's not our Twitter account. Then you never know what's going on.
I
with this
wanted
thing.
to believe, but I'm going
I
to
believe.
continue.
I will
Thank
crush-
you.
All the dates have been pointing to September 8th. At
I will
this
crush
point.
your
All the
spirit.
rumors have kind of collided at this point.
Well,
I'll give
in
you-
less than a week, we'll know.
Yeah, and then it won't come out. It'll be delayed for some
I'm
reason.
kind of amazed at how much we all know how much hoopla it had at CES at the beginning of the year, yet they've waited till like a week before the device to make any sort of official confirmation that after all this waiting, oh yeah, it's coming out in a week.
Well, see, they've only had
taking
9
so
months
long.
to build it up.
I know. Well, I guess so, but unofficially build it up.
So it's like a baby.
Yeah.
There you go. And we got an email from Ben Garrett in Sydney. Hey, TNT, I love the show. I wanted to mention a merger block that is not too dissimilar from the current AT&T T-Mobile proposal. In Australia, during 1997, there were 3 main operators in the national pay TV market. Like the mobile market, each of these providers operated at their own expensive networks and tied customers into long-term, costly contracts. 2 of these providers were giant telecommunication companies, and while Galaxy, the third, was independent and financially poor, Galaxy, together with the leading provider Foxtel, proposed a merger. But this was blocked by the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. It was on the grounds that a merger would significantly lessen competition, which in principle was true. But less than a year later, the owners of Galaxy went into liquidation. Most of its assets were purchased up by a former merger partner, Foxtel, at a bargain price and allowed renegotiate some financially crippling contracts. So ironically, the merger block made little difference for consumers, but significantly helped Foxtel, who less than a decade earlier became the monopoly provider.
And we've kind of talked a
Wow.
little bit about what happens if AT&T can't buy T-Mobile. What happens to T-Mobile?
Will they die?
I mean, I don't know
Do you
if
think
it's
they
going
would fall
this
apart?
is going to repeat itself, but well, T-Mobile certainly wants you to think that they will. They want you to think that they need to be bought by AT&T in order to survive.
See, I think arguably they would end up partnering with Sprint or
Yeah.
something like that, a smaller company, and join up or offer new services. So Sprint's trying everything to succeed right now because they're the ones left out of this whole deal.
Right.
So they've been trying with every kind of service you can imagine. That's not their core business, and I think that's what T-Mobile has to do if this doesn't go through.
Well, it's good to see how similar cases have fared in the past, so thanks to Ben. Also got another email from Miriam. On yesterday's show, Sarah was wondering how important removable batteries are for people. In my case, it's very important, and I won't buy a computer or other devices without one. I homeschool 5-year-old triplets. Whoa, Miriam. tough job, who love their videos, games, and music. When we travel, have downtime between classes, or, you know, they aren't taking the classes, they work on one of my gadgets. The first day we did this, I realized I need spares and stocked up. We also took a 17-hour international flight with no dead devices. My husband laughs at me when I pack, but when his Droid X gets to 10%, he is happy. And she imagines a lot of other people are in the same boat. Well, Darren he's like, I stock batteries. I have batteries with me wherever I go because this sort of stuff does happen. It is important.
And this email was in response to, I think, it's an Ultrabook that doesn't have a removable battery.
Right.
Simon, do you care if your battery's removable in your laptop or phone or anything?
No, what I do is I've got the Power Traveler, I think it's the Mini Gorilla, which is like a universal extra battery that I carry around. It'll charge up my iPad. It'll do sort of, you know, standard micro USB devices. So I find that's pretty cool. Just put that in my backpack. It'll charge up my iPad like twice fully. So that's pretty, sorry, my iPhone, my iPad, not so much. But so I do that, just generic third-party battery that sits in my backpack.
Yeah, because otherwise you have, like Darren was saying, you're going to have to stock different batteries on you. You're going to have to have your phone battery, an extra laptop battery, this extra other battery. I think maybe the Power Traveler, this Mini Gorilla thing, I'm looking at it now. Not a bad idea.
Looking pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Have a spare battery just for everything.
Want to thank everybody who contributed to our Tech News Today Reddit page. Some of the top stories were submitted by Rand BLV, Gartel, Capt Kipper, Draconos, another Capt Kipper, Brovnaut.
It's actually the same Cap Kipper.
And
PC
others.
Guy, 8088 underscore.
Cap Kipper just did well today.
He did very good, and you get nothing for that. But thanks. No, you can submit stories at our Reddit, or you can, if you don't want to submit stories, you can vote them up or down. It helps us determine our lineup because we are looking at this. Trust me, I'm looking at this.
Absolutely,
it helps us determine what is important.
Yeah, we got a good group on Reddit. So thanks so much for helping us pick our stories. Simon Dingle, thanks so much for being with us today and staying up late, overly caffeinated, to join us on the show. Tell folks what you're up to these days and how they can find you online.
Yeah, I'm up to a whole lot, probably too much. We've got the ZA Tech Show Netcast, which is something we do out of South Africa. That's every Monday night. You can check out zatech.co.za. I write for a couple of magazines. I've got a radio show in South Africa. But simon.co.za or simondingle.com or at simondingle on Twitter. All of my stuff's listed over there. And thanks for having me, guys. This was fun. This is great, even though only half my brain is engaged.
No,
I don't think anybody knows that. You did great.
If when you're fully engaged, you're going to run this place. You want to email us? It's tnt@twit.tv. Our Google Voice number is 260-TNT Show. Give us a call. Let us know what you think. Keep it to 30 seconds or less. For now, have a great 3-day weekend for those of you who are going to have one. And we'll see you on Tuesday. Terpster is going to be our guest on Terpster Tuesday.
Terpster Tuesday, the first, well, probably the only one.
Bye, everybody.